Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us. We've been missing for a couple of weeks, and I just want to make sure that we gain our audience back today. We will be talking, doing a tribute for Mother's Day. So, last week I was out because I went to Mississippi to visit my son, and I enjoyed myself, and I actually didn't want to come back.
Good.
And I'm still feeling some kind of way that I'm back.
Right.
But hopefully, by the time he start high school, God will release me to transition up out of here. So, as I said today, we will be doing a Mother's Day tribute. My guest today is Kessa Taylor, Kessa Jenkins Taylor. And Kessa is East Oakland Violence Interrupter. She is also transitioning into what's the new position?
Program specialist.
Program specialist. She haven't even been at the job 6 months and have upgraded. So that's the great thing about having um, people who believe in you and your craft. Because she came on as a violence interrupter, but I know she had more skill set to work, do admin work. She come from a corporate background because due to the homicide of her son, she wanted to get her feet wet in the streets to give back to the community. So I brought her in as an East Oakland violence interrupter. And through that process, just knowing that that was something she was passionate about, but I figured she would soar in a different capacity. So she have transitioned into that role less than 6 months. So that's what happens when you create divine connections, when you want to see your sister win at any
That part.
cost. You make sure that when opportunities present themselves, that you properly position people to eliminate problems. So I want to congratulate her on her newfound enrollment, as well as allow her to talk a little bit about her speaking engagement she just had. She just had another opportunity for the last, what, 4 or 5 years. I've been really pushing and grooming her, to be the person to be able to leave a legacy for her son by telling her story and creating the platforms that she wanted to utilize to then incorporate her own organization to, better service foundation for his children and to keep his legacy alive. So she spoke at a, a gun violence event in San Francisco. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I'm going to let her introduce herself, tell her a little bit about who she is. Besides the facilitator for Bonafide Sisterhood, let her tell y'all who she is.
Thank you for having me, Coach Carter. Yes, I transitioned. She's my life coach. She never tell people that, but this is the reason why I'm able to move the way that I do is because she saw something in me that I actually just started seeing in myself. I am a mother of 5, a grandmother of 11. My son, Anthony Terrell Custer, was murdered July 1st, 2015. And I needed to do something to make a difference. I had already lost a lot of family members and stuff like that. So I really wanted to get involved in the community, but I didn't know how to do that. So um, Miss Nina, as she stated, that we for 5 years now, she's been grooming me to speak my son's truth, not be fearful. Um, Actually holding me accountable for my procrastination because I do procrastinate. I'm not gonna just jump off the porch. I gotta be confident. I'm learning to be confident and trust myself now more than I ever have. And my speaking engagement was for Gifford's San Francisco Gun Memorial Violence Week, which she's a gun violence survivor. In 2011 in Arizona, she was attempted assassination on her life. She was shot in the head and she survived. But I was able to meet a lot of people who've experienced gun violence and stuff like that. So yes, I want to have my feet wet. I want to do more public speaking events. I think that's where I'm supposed to be. My mama has always told me that I was political, but I never looked at that like
Mm-hmm.
that. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like now is my time to
Mm-hmm.
shine. So
And most definitely, I agree with that because God always leads you to where you supposed to be.
I don't
So,
think I'm supposed to be a boutique owner.
well, we're gonna talk about that. That's something you want to
To
do,
do
and
right,
that's another thing. When we learn how to get out the way,
right.
then God could, direct the path. So, being a mom of a homicide victim, your son Anthony was killed in, was it 2015? 2015,
2015. Mm-hmm.
around July. Was it
Yep.
July?
July 1st.
Okay, so I wanted to make sure that this show represented moms who are gonna. Most moms gonna have a difficult time during Mother's Day, that have experienced the loss of a child or even just loved ones, and people who moms are no longer here. So I wanted to create some time just to for you to share with us a little bit about Anthony, a little bit about your process of grief, because a lot of times people want you to rush that process based on their comfort zone, and a lot of times people don't know what to say, so they end up saying the wrong stuff. So just through your journey and just seeing where you are now, I believe that you will help a lot of moms. At least they will see a future, that it is life after
Death.
death. So let's talk a little bit about Anthony.
Okay, so I was a teenage mom. I got pregnant at 15. I had him at 16. So technically, we grew up together. He had two children, a son and a daughter. And I'll say he was a God fearing man, but he had his own demons and things that he was dealing with. Not having a father present, but me trying to make sure that he had male role models. I think it played a major part in his life to not really have his father in his life, knowing who he was, but it took him so long to like step up that the respect wasn't there, and what he wanted in a father. It was more of a friendship. He always said I'm his mom and dad, but I could never be his dad. That's why I was blessed to still have my father to teach him some stuff, um, and guide him as much as possible. But at the end of the day, I gave my kids an opportunity to have their own opinion, and their own choices to live their life. I did what I could to try to point out things, but they had to learn that experience on their own. Because every time I was against somebody, they went closer to that person. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to kind of like back up and let them kind of see the person like what I was seeing. They had to be able to see that. And unfortunately, my son was loyal,
Mm-hmm.
and it cost him his life. That was a gift and a curse, because you can be loyal to your friends, but sometimes your friends envy you. They jealous of you. They have underlying motives, arterial motives. They infiltrate your area, just to see how close they can get. And it would be somebody in his circle that he probably wouldn't have never thought would have did that to
Mm-hmm.
him. When the guy approached him, he didn't run. He was like, "Oh, that's what you about to do?" He kind of like had a conversation. But the guy knew once he pulled the gun that we in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta go through with it now
Mm-hmm.
because I'm here. If I don't, then I'm not gonna be able to rest. And so he pulled the trigger on a friend that he had since he was 8 years old, and my son is in the ground as a result of trusting people. You can't
Mm-hmm.
trust everybody. Everybody's not your friend. My process in it, because it devastated me, because I knew the boy.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm gonna say this: he did some crazy stuff, and as a mom, it beat me in the ass later.
Mhm.
I got him out of a situation that maybe he should have been serving time for.
Mhm.
And to this day, I kind of like regret that. But that's not to say that my son would have still lived, because that was his day and number. He was the person that was supposed to do it. So everything that played out was supposed to play out the way that it did. I just hate that I was a part of that, because it made me question who I was as a person, because I try to give my kids the benefit of the doubt in the people that they were around. It just, I knew I shouldn't have did it, but I did it anyway.
Mhm.
You know, I knew on my heart that I shouldn't have done it, but I did it anyway. And as a result, years later, my son ended up in the ground on top of his grandfather.
Mhm.
Um, and my dad died from cancer. So, you know, it's different, different kind of atmosphere. One person dying natural and one person being taken away. Um, it kind of like I said, devastated me. And I knew that I needed to do something. My patience had left.
Mhm.
I wasn't focused. I was angry. I was mad. I don't even think I was sad. I think I was more angry and mad, and I was trying to check myself, because I am from the streets
Mhm.
and I knew his location. But as a mom, as much as her son put that pain on me, I couldn't do her like that.
Mhm.
It could have been done, but I couldn't do that,
Mhm.
because I have to be able to sleep at night. And I
Mhm.
know that I'm a God fearing woman, and God would have hunted me, because that was
Mhm.
not the plan. That wasn't my, it's not my plan. It's not what I was supposed to do. So through this whole process, I'll just say it hasn't been easy. I take one day at a time. Um, if you notice in my picture, my face,
Mhm.
I got blue on. My That's my son's favorite color. When I spoke at on the third at the gun memorial, gun safety memorial week, I actually wore blue that day, because it was represented a symbol of my son. That was his favorite color. Any shade of blue
Mhm.
was his favorite color. So I made sure my eyes, I made sure
Mhm.
that I had a blue shirt with
Mhm.
different shades of
Mhm.
blue, blue jeans, blue boots.
You
No,
was blued
blue, I
out.
was blued out, for him, because it represents what I'm trying to do.
Mhm.
I was thinking like my colors for my son foundation should be blue.
Mhm.
Um, and blue is a strong color, and it's also a mellow color. So
Mhm.
I kind of like, moving forward, probably would do a lot of stuff with blue,
Mhm.
because I know that spiritually that's my connection to him. Um, I hate that it happened the way that it did, but I was just a vessel.
So, what would you, just listening to your story, people wouldn't think that you went through that, because it was like, as you talking your steps as you worked your, so going through the stages of grief, the denial, the anger, all of those stages that people normally stay in, because I always tell people grief has no etiquette. So for somebody to tell you you get over it, or it's been this amount of time, is, to me, is disrespectful. And for you to be able to walk through them steps, and oftentimes just knowing you and being around you often, I see sometimes you revisit certain steps. So just reassuring people that nobody processes the same, and is no etiquette when it comes to grief, is something that I want people to understand. Also, talk about just your support groups that you host for, the grief circles that you host for moms. So that way, if we do have a mom listening, she could get connected to that.
Okay. When I started off with Nina, she sent me, invited me to a women's conference. During this time is my process of beginning the healing stage, because I didn't know what that actually looked like. I adapted to him being gone, because I knew I wouldn't see him again physically. So she invited me to a women inspired group, and I actually liked it, the group. I came to that group by myself. Normally, I don't come to events like that by myself, but I knew that at that moment in time, it was something that I needed to do. Like they say, you can't go everywhere with everybody.
Mhm.
Some stuff you got to do by yourself.
Mhm.
And so that was something I had to do by myself. I was able to release a lot of built up anger and tension at that conference because they were talking about community. My son died in a very community that I was raised in and my dad lived in for years. So I didn't feel like community. What about community? So that was an issue for me. And so maybe that's why it took me so many years now to come back into the community because I was angry
Mhm.
at the community because my son died in the community that helped raise me. Like,
Mhm.
it was a problem. Like, I just don't, what you mean community?
Mhm.
So I couldn't get that understanding and I really didn't want to
Mhm.
at the time because I needed to deal with my own internal issues. And so the groups allowed me to speak about my son. It allowed me to be in a room with other people who were going through similar things that I was going through. I met a lot of mothers who had lost their kids and more than one child. And I just don't know how, you handle that kind of situation. So, and your grief is, I don't care what today is. Today may be good. Tomorrow might not be.
Mhm.
Or today started off good, but when you get ready for bed tonight, it may not be. You may have a scent come across your house and a song may come on that will put you back
Mhm.
into in your grief. And you can do that. That's healthy. It's a part of your life, but you're not supposed to stay there.
Mhm.
Staying there only hinders your process of growth.
Mhm.
Not saying you got to do it today, you got
Mhm.
to do it tomorrow, but you have to start making steps. So I have to get out of this. I
Mhm.
can't. And my thing was I had to say my son is talking to me. So if I get into a deep situation, I hear him say, "What are you doing, mama?
Mhm.
No, that ain't you. You got to get up and do this and that." And I hear him talking to me because that's the stuff he said to me when he was here. He didn't want to see me cry. He didn't like to see me upset. He wanted me to continue to strive to be the best queen, he would say,
Mhm.
and not and keep my head held high. And that was something my son did for me. So, right, for a long time, it took me a minute to believe in myself because the one person that pumped my head up and put me on that pedestal was the very person that they took. My other
Mhm.
kids, don't get me wrong, my other kids tell me I do good, but that was the one that was the
Mhm.
closest to me. Like
Mhm.
he was still at home at 27 years old,
Mhm.
even though he had kids, he still was at home.
Mhm.
My other kids was on their own, and so it kind of you just gotta just know that it's not a process. There's no etiquette. There's no rush and having a proper people in your corner when you are going through a situation because you can't have people in your corner like every time you turn around they handing you something to pacify because they don't know how to deal with it.
Mhm.
So either that be a drink,
Mhm.
either that may be a blunt, either that's let's go out,
Mhm.
anything to stop you from talking about it,
Mhm.
but you need to talk about it in
Mhm.
order to move forward.
Mhm.
So um you just have to do that and it's not going to be easy. I don't expect anyone who have lost a child or loved one to just be like, okay, I'm okay with it.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's not realistic. That's unrealistic to think that you're going to be okay.
Mhm.
When people see me, they be like, you don't look like you've been, because I can't live like that.
Mhm.
I have I'm gonna say I have a perception for myself.
Mhm.
I believe your first impression is your best impression. If I come damaged all the time,
Mhm.
don't nobody want to deal with me because they looking at me as a victim.
Mhm.
Even though I have a reason to feel a certain type of way about stuff, but people don't handle you correctly when you are a victim. They kind of like,
Capitalize on
right,
it.
own
Mhm.
it, or they
Mhm.
mistreat you, or
Mhm.
are you really not getting anything out of it. And as soon as you done talking to them, they're on the phone.
Mhm.
They calling somebody saying, "Girl, this girl getting on my nerves. She
Mhm.
every time I turn around, she talking
Mhm.
about the, you know what I'm saying. Instead of just being a friend and saying, I understand, you know
Mhm.
what I'm saying. I haven't been where you at, and if you need somebody to talk to, just I don't care how to scream, yell. I mean, I say that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have nobody around me supporting me, then they're not around me, period.
Mm-hmm.
Because I need support when I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to be broken.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Without permission. Without needing permission.
permission.
Is it okay for
And
me
then
to
a bit
fall apart
before,
today?
right. You know what I'm saying? Can I be broken?
Yes.
Can I fall apart? Can
Mm-hmm.
we start putting my pieces back together? You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Because this puzzle been broken.
Uh-huh.
And puzzles come apart for a reason.
Okay,
So
let's tap in right there because for me, I haven't lost a child, so I would never try to compare nothing to that because I haven't um got close to that, but I have lost my children's father, two of them, and then I have lost a fiance. So I have experienced grief on a different level. And for me, when I experienced grief, it just took me to everything in my life that I never dealt with. So I never really got to grieve those loss because I had to shut down. Well, I didn't have to. I chose to shut down because everything from my childhood all the way to adulthood to failed relationships to failed business to failed jobs to fail everything that was I felt was a failure, that was a loss in my life. All that was like came to the forefront. So it pushed grief to the back. So it was like, how do you,
but
you
she was
know,
still in mourning.
yeah,
So even with that coming back, that
yes,
grief never went back.
hmm,
Your mourning came back.
yes,
You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I thought I buried that, and
yeah,
I'm trying to deal with this,
yeah,
but you didn't deal with that. That's
hmm,
why when that happened, it resurfaced. And that's the same thing that happened with me. Like, I have been the strong person in the family. I've planned funerals and
hmm,
everything else. And when my son died, it was like clockwork. I got
hmm,
up and did what I need to do, moved
hmm,
around, like,
hmm,
just like a person with their head cut off.
hmm,
You know what I'm saying? Getting this stuff done because I refuse to let anybody, this what you ain't gonna do. This
hmm,
is it for
hmm,
me, and I'm doing everything. Now y'all can be here for support.
hmm,
And if y'all can't be here for support, I don't want to hear about pick that or get
hmm,
that
hmm,
because you don't even have no opinion.
right,
That's just how I felt. People probably felt like I was rude, but at that point in time, this is my son. God gave him to me,
hmm,
and I'm gonna send him back the way I want to,
that's
with
right,
nobody else's opinion,
hmm,
without nobody trying to say, "Oh, I paid for this, I paid for that,
hmm,
I did this." You did nothing.
hmm,
You just was there. That's it.
yeah,
And so when I had to go to counseling a year after, because I was so mad, like I
hmm,
was so mad. I mean, I literally was not. I had been on my job for 20 something years. I had never been wrote up,
hmm,
and I got wrote up on my job. I already felt like I had one foot in and one foot out on the job because I feel like they kind of rushed me back, because your
hmm,
jobs don't care. They kind of rushed me back to work. And when I